Underground films. I'm an underground filmmaker. What does that constitute? It really is about the depth of any art form. There's a mainstream that tells you what popular culture is going to be and sort of shows you the time that we live in. The underground constantly talks or thinks about what's next, depending, and goes back to what has happened before. What is happening now, analyzes, rationalizes, scathingly critiques it, is therefore transgressive, therefore provocative, therefore alternative, and therefore also dangerous. My journey started with Dogma, which was a principle floated by two Danish filmmakers in 1995. I wouldn't get into the details of this because you can Google it, but that was the beginning of a new independent cinema movement, as we know. Because what they did was between Winterberg and Lars von Trier. Later on, Harmony Korine, Mike Figgis, legendary filmmakers, legends that were making their legends at that point of time, threw away all the old formats, embraced digital media, and started thinking digitally. So, which basically means that the new medium, this digital media, through Sony's handycams and camcorders, basically professional amateur cameras that give you a completely different image logic than what we know as cinema, which was shot always on film, which is an infinite medium. This was a binary medium. So as I often say, I wouldn't have been a filmmaker without Apple. I did not go to film school. I learned filmmaking by watching films, mostly on my laptop. These films that I watched never got to theaters near me. They still don't. Which also probably is the reason why my films don't make it to the theaters near me. I was turning into a filmmaker at a time when analog was dying, and I come from the analog times. I've seen analog work at its very best. And suddenly this binary logic was disrupting the idea on which the analog principles were crafted, which was an absolute principle. This principle of absolutism was being challenged by the binary principle, where anything could happen. Suddenly, you have now, as we all know right now, I mean, on an average, when you open your laptop, how many softwares do you have open, or how many pages do you have open at the same time? Would you care to throw me a figure? 5, 6, 7, 8. So it starts with 5. Imagine you are multitasking to the effect that you are we don't really listen to music nowadays. We listen to music when we're doing something else, like driving a car, or working, or writing, or something else. We're always doing multiple things at the same time, which is why I started my argument with the fact that I have multiple personalities, and I embrace that. And I embrace this multiplicity, this duality that exists in our current state, current time, which is what I'm calling binary time. So I, armed with my Sony Handycam, a format known as mini DV, which is a really, really small format, I started making films, and very quickly in India, in Calcutta, where I'm from, and where I went back to practice this craft, I was quickly called the street filmmaker, or a dirty filmmaker, because the image was dirty. The image was grainy. It was not a pristine image. It wasn't even a regulated image, a crafted image like the ones that filmmakers, DOPs, editors were used to. The audience were used to. So who would see it? Why were you doing this? Why was Lars von Trier working on Idiots, or why was Mike Figgis making Time Code? Because we had an idea, high quality lo-fi. Now imagine this, that technology does not only work in one level. Again, the binary logic of our time means that quality can exist in various forms. Why would you take then an absolutist view of quality? Lo-fi is 100% guaranteed, assured to give the results which are intended. If you intend to do some lo-fi work. So therefore, we had to come up with stuff that we had to say, or what we wanted to say, and see if they were lo-fi enough. Which meant that the whole idea of filmmaking had to be revisited. From the writing or the conceptualization to imaging and production logic to planning and crewing, the kind of equipment that you use to not only shoot but to do other things. For instance, a software that suddenly comes up, which for a guy like me who's doing the planning, the writing, the direction, the camera, and the editing, all everything myself, I could break myself up with that software and be many things at different times. Along with this came another thing, the pirate ship into the Bay of Bengal. An open source work. Suddenly, I could watch, I didn't have to then depend on my friendly neighborhood video vendor and his aesthetics and his choice of where he was going, which shop in Bangkok will he pick up his next lot from. I didn't have to be bothered about that because now I could torrent my films. All I needed was information. And the internet was giving me that information. What was happening in Denmark, what was happening in Thailand, what was happening in Hong Kong or Bulgaria or South Africa. And then I could actually find that film. Not only that film, but the correct subtitles of the film from another pirate's website. So suddenly there was this organic feeling that, oh, are we in dreamland? Are we in the middle of a revolution? Is this finally that moment where everyone is sharing everything? Many people, and mainly the studios, rose up, and we'll come to that at the end, this topic at the end of the discussion again, but industry was up in arms. They thought this was illegal. It was indeed. Somebody's work was being distributed freely. But wasn't it like that time when my friend gave me a book, and it was a book by Tom Robbins, it was called Jitterbug Perfume, and he said, why don't you read this? Because I can't really get it, but I think you will. That book changed my life. I had no clue that book existed, and if he hadn't given it to me, I wouldn't ever be like this. It was through an act of sharing that I became who I am today. And I truly believe that the open source world really brought us to a revolutionary stage where suddenly everything was available. How you monetize it, how you economically look at this issue was something else altogether. But we got something which was immediate, and it was raw. I didn't want to say true. I changed it very recently after Rahul's presentation, because it made me think a little bit. But I would say that I would use the word raw instead, because truth depends on time. It's always shifting. It's flexible and it's subjective. But raw is what we can all understand. It's that unformed state where things are far from perfect, but all the aspects of that thing is actually there. I started out by documenting my life because this technology gave rise to quickly a very new, brand new way of documenting things. So with the Handycam, I started shooting myself and my girlfriend. As I was making this film called Love in India over 6 years, I also was trying to form my artist identity, which goes back to the fact that I started calling myself Q. As my other identity, the Bengali guy who I would use an expletive in this context, but I can't. Have been told by the fine people here that I can't do that. However, you can all please think of that amazing word that starts with F. It is imperative, it was imperative for me to understand that as a Bengali, as a middle class Bengali, having been brought up with the kind of surroundings that I was brought up in, with the circumstances that surrounded me, it was impossible for me to think like I wanted to think. Something was stopping me, and that was my own identity. Till the time I shifted that, nothing started. And therefore, and then, this came. Into my hands, the first Canon 70. At the very edge of right after making Love in India, we got this camera. And everything changed. Finally, for me, the revolution had arrived. And I quickly started shooting the rhythm of the street. 2 films back to back, Gandu and Tashidesh, completely different, one made with 3.5 crores. Black and white color, image dynamics, the rationale of narrative, being what it means being a Bengali, what it means being an Indian, what it means living in these times, what it means to be an independent underground filmmaker. Everything was contained in the rhythm of the street. I just had to drum with it. It was all there. As we were doing this, the race for resolution was on. And like everything else, the dream was coming to an end. The desire for 2K and then 4K was basically the industrial takeover of the digital domain. Technology that gave us that opportunity was quickly dissipating. Apple no longer supported Final Cut Pro. I don't want to go technical on you guys, but Lars von Trier started shooting on Red. Everything changed. And then the next thing happened, which is the emergence of digital distribution. Last year at Sundance, Brahman Naman was in competition. And it's rare that an Indian film gets into competition at Sundance. We were over the moon with that. But on the 3rd day, there was a buzz. The first 2 screenings had gone very well, and there was a bidding war. Suddenly we were in the middle of this. Amazon, Netflix bid, and then Netflix ended up buying all my films and selecting buying Brahman Naman to be the first Asian Netflix original. Now, for all you guys who know what a Netflix original is, you know how thrilling that is. Like, we were already in the Narcos days, right? We know that this is a new thing. This is going to be huge. This is the next big thing, you know? And we are Netflix original. This is how Netflix original happens. They are indeed picking up independent content from independent artists who don't have traditional backgrounds, and they're going to actually distribute us. It was great. It was like a new world order was happening. But also, you had to think, because Netflix is a corporation. Netflix bought 19 of the 20 films that were sold in Sundance last year. They outbid every Hollywood studio. What is going to happen in the next few years will be extremely interesting for our community. While there's a great opportunity that is slowly opening up, there's also that threat that the content will be homogeneous. Because here is a global entity trying to please a global audience who are overall homogenized. let's be honest here. They also have the same tendencies that the Hollywood studios had when the independent takeover happened in the early 90s, when Fox came up with Searchlight and Universal bought out somebody and everyone started buying each other and basically it all became the same thing. I would just, on that note, want to draw your attention to the next thing. Instead of Wikipedia or trusting Google, trying to find things on a global platform, what if we think for a second that we go back to the time where we used to have our neighborhood library? There was a system once in India, and in every school, every college, not only that, every neighborhood, every institution even would have some sort of information storage system. Google Pirate Box, it's basically an archive. It's like your Wikipedia in your neighborhood, which you can beam through your Wi-Fi signals to anybody who enters that network area. So we are going to set this up very soon in Goa and Calcutta. It's our pilot project to see if we can get all the work that our network has done, not only my company, but all my friends, all the indies who I know, and there are quite a few of them, and I'm not talking about only films. It could be books, it could be graphic novel, it could be any kind of information, it could be articles, thesis papers. But if this entire content, like a 4 TB box, which exists in some spot, in one corner, can't be seen, but anybody entering that area can access. This is the next Pirate Bay. This is going to be really huge because there will not be any central archiving system and no servers required. This is all individual and community-driven activities. So we're really looking forward to this. And with that, I will stop, but just to tell you that the fight for freedom, will not stop. It's going to continue. Thank you very much.